Hit S, there it is. Most people's face give it away, and it's uncomfortable. It's like all of a sudden there's just a lot of stuff going on over here that's just annoying.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. I have it set as low as it can go, but I'm slowly going to come up and hopefully eventually we're able to move your volume wheel up to, I would like to be able to move it up to 12 o'clock.
Okay.
That's pretty normal. If you really have to keep it all the way down, that's not good. Ideally, you want to be able to get it up.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to turn it on, and just sort of bear with me for a minute. I will turn it down if you need me to, but I'll probably wait about 30 seconds. So I'm going to turn it on. There, you saw it.
Well,
You saw it.
I could feel something going on.
And feeling a lot of pulses and a lot of sensations. Like some people have said, I feel the electrical impulses, I feel the heartbeat, they're really aware of feeling. That's very normal, especially with longer duration of deafness cases. So that's totally normal. And it's pretty remarkable to me how quickly the brain starts to go, aha. And the brain kind of is like, okay, all right, what is this? And it starts to adapt to it. So it won't take me long before I can go behind you and start to turn up the volume a little bit. And eventually today, we will take out your hearing aid, and I will give you some things to do with just the implant. And most of them you won't be able to do, but some things you will be able to do right away. Like almost everyone I've worked with has detection. They can tell a sound is present. You could tell you are getting something. Now some people will say to me, I'm not hearing it, but every time you call my name, I feel it. That's okay, because at least they're aware. They have detection. So in 10 minutes or so, we will take out your hearing aid, and I will just cover my face and call your name and just say, Megan.
Okay.
Megan. And it won't sound like Megan. It might just be like, it might even be just a feeling. But you'll know when I'm saying it, and you'll just raise your hand when you feel it, hear it, sense it. You'll let me know. And then I'll give you some additional exercises to see what you're able to do today. A couple things I want to remind you of. I've told you to wear it all waking hours. But I put 2 magnets in the universal headpiece. And you really might not need 2 magnets. There's different, if you read through the manuals, there's different ways to configure your magnets. And be really careful when you're using the Aquamic magnets. I mean, it's the same magnets, but be really careful when you are putting magnets in the Aquamic, because the way it's set up, if you put the same number of magnets in, it can be too tight. So be aware of that. But there's different ways you can loosen it. You can just put 1 in and put the foam on top so it's not clicking around in there, and then cover it. You can put a piece of foam and then 2 magnets, and that makes it weaker because the magnets aren't right up against your head. What is perfect today could be too tight in 2 weeks, because there's still a little bit of swelling here.
Yeah.
And as the swelling goes down, you might feel like I'm starting to get a headache. You have to figure out, is the headache from the stimulation and the sound, or does it hurt right where this is sitting on your head? And that sometimes is hard to know, because sometimes it can be numb after surgery around here.
Yeah.
But if it really hurts right where the coil is sitting, the magnet's too tight. If the headache is all over the place and you don't feel any tenderness here, then it's stimulation from sound. So those are just some things to be aware of. The headpiece, it's really important that it not be too tight, because in the worst case scenario, now I've never seen this happen, but I've heard of it happening, in the very worst case scenario, it's so tight, it creates a little sore. And if that sore were to become infected, then the infection would go into that whole area that had surgery, and you would have to be reimplanted, so you'd have to have it taken out. You'd have to wait 6 months for the area to fully heal, and then you'd go through surgery again. So that's a pain in the bottom. So I don't mean to scare people, but I talk a lot about the magnet and how tight it is. because it's there are only two things that could get you into big trouble. The magnet's the biggest problem. But the second thing is not wearing it all together. And that doesn't happen at your age. But you'd be amazed. Sometimes parents will bring kids in, and it's too tight, so they won't wear it. It's too loud, so they don't wear it. And then they get home 2 or 3 hours later, or 5 hours later, and put it on. And then it's really too loud. And they wait another day and put it on, and it's really too loud, and they can never get it back on. And we have to turn, because remember, we started low, and I turned it up, and then when he said it was too loud, I backed it down. But we didn't just boom start like that, you know? So I'm going to go behind you now and turn up your volume just slightly, and we'll see how you do with it. I think you're doing really well so far. Okay. So that's about a 15-20% increase in the volume right there. So it's still pretty low. Like I said, it's supposed to be at 12 o'clock before you're really where you need to be. So I know it'll take a little bit to get you there. Can you manage this? Is this okay, or are you overwhelmed?
I think so. I don't know. It just feels like there's too much going on.
Yeah, it is very, very overwhelming. Very overwhelming. There was a young lady I was working with, kind of an interesting case. She was 17 when she came in, so younger than you, obviously. But she'd been maybe in 3rd or 4th grade when she quit wearing a hearing aid. And she didn't have meningitis. She had an enlarged vestibular aqueduct. So she had pretty good hearing on one ear that slowly was going down. She qualified for an implant. She wanted to do her ear that had been dead since birth. So unlike you, she didn't hear normally for 2 years. She was born with a dead ear. She's pretty well known in her community, so the media came out for it. And I was like, ugh. Imagine cameras in your face right now. Okay, Megan, what do you think? And she just had this look like, this is absolutely awful. She didn't cry, but I thought she was going to. When she came back 2 weeks later, it was still awful. She couldn't understand anything. It took her 6 months to be able to tell the difference between the word toothbrush and airplane. 6 months. But here she is 2 years later, and now it's clearer than her hearing aid. 2 years later. But that's kind of cool. Yeah, no, you had nothing to lose in this year. Nothing. And so there's a potential for a lot of excitement. You just have to be patient. So far, I think you're doing great. Don't worry, all those weird sensations you're having are normal. I'm going to, again, go and turn it up a little bit more, because before I let you turn off your hearing aid, I need to make sure this is in the right place.
Okay.
So I'll turn it up a little bit more. So you're right now on about almost 8:30, 9 o'clock. Not quite. Okay, so now you're at 10 o'clock. We're almost at noon, but not quite. Okay, we're almost at noon, and I want to get to noon. So think about it like a clock. There's a little white dot, and depending on where that white dot is situated, I want you at 12 o'clock. I want that white dot right at 12 o'clock. Okay. And right now that white dot is on 10 o'clock. Now I'm going to do a few things. I'm just going to make some loud noise. Okay. So I can turn it down a little bit, and I probably want to. I probably want to turn this down a little bit, because I won't be able to turn your volume up on there until it's comfortable for you. You know, unless I turn this volume down, I won't be able to get you up to 12 o'clock. That's what I meant to say. Okay, so hopefully that's a little bit better. It's a little bit more tolerable. But even when I know. Loud sounds are going to drive you crazy. Soft sounds might be weird. Like, can you feel something with this? Do you know there's something there?
I think so. It's kind of hard to tell.
Okay. And we have the highs really rolled off, so it might not be something that's easy to pick up on. But that you got, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let me turn down some of your high frequencies a little bit more, This is one of the nice things I can do with advanced bionic software I can't do with the other companies. So I'm rolling off the gain to the high frequencies so that we're easing you in so you're not getting, so not only are the M levels set lower, but the gain is set a little bit lower. So I think it's the high frequencies that you're really having a hard time with. So yeah, and we'll work on that. I'm going to also make another change to this electrode right here. Just to try to roll this on a little better. Sometimes I'll turn electrode 16 off altogether because it's just too much. But in your case, I'm just going to start by turning it down. There are no important sounds there, so I don't get too worked up if we turn it way down, just to help you a little bit more, so that this is, it's still annoying, you're still going to hear it, but you won't feel like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The first time you turn on water, shh, you'll be like, oh my goodness, what's that noise? So I'll just sort of roll some of those things off to help you a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to, of course, try again.
Okay.
And then I may have to turn it down some more, don't worry. This is exciting. It is, she's doing really well. Alright.
It just sounds like a lot of beeps.
Yeah, that's normal too. Some people, that's at 12 o'clock right now. So I'm going to wait a minute and then I'm going to turn it down if you still look like it's hard. So we're right at 12 o'clock. I'm thrilled with where you have it set right now. Some people will say it just sounds like static. It doesn't even sound like beeps. It just, the fact that you say it sounds like beeps.
Yeah, it's kind of like pulsy.
Is good because you're saying it sounds like beeps, not I don't hear anything, I just feel pulses. That's what I get. Some people won't use the word sound. They'll say, I just feel pulses.
Yeah, you can feel it too, like you kind of hear a little something.
So this is going to be your program 1. Right here. And I'm going to keep it so that if you accidentally, I'm limiting the top part of your volume. Before, if you went past 12 o'clock, you could make it 20% louder. And sometimes people bump it, and then they put it on, and it's extremely uncomfortable. So I made it so that you could only go 5% louder.
Okay.
If you accidentally bumped it, it wouldn't be louder than 5%. Later I can give you more, but for safety reasons,
Yeah.
it's better if I don't make that wheel go high.
Yeah.
And remember, if you want it louder, you just need to go from program 1 to program 2 to program 3. So program 1 is on the bottom, just like a building, first floor. Program 2, you have to physically move the switch up to the second position. So I'll show you on my demo harmony. This is program 1, right here on the bottom.
Okay.
So say you have your wheel right now at 12 o'clock. If you went as high as it would go to 5 o'clock, it would only be 5% louder.
Okay.
Because then you don't have to worry about anything bad happening. But say you did go up and you thought, you know what, now I'm getting used to it and I don't feel like I feel like I'm getting used to the pulses. You'd be amazed. This is going to happen to you. It won't be sufficient. When I see you in Casper, I do not expect you will still be in program 1. So what you need to do is you need to move it to a louder program by flipping that switch to program 2. And then before you put that on your head, turn down the volume. And then slowly work your way up to noon, 12 o'clock. And then once you're there, turn it down again, go all the way to 3, and try to work your way up to noon. That's what you're supposed to do before now and April 23rd. Ideally, April 23rd, I see you and you tell me, I'm on program 3 and I can wear it at 12 o'clock, ideally. But if you can't, don't worry, that's okay. Because sometimes people can't. They stay in program 2 or even program 1. They can't. The most important thing is that when I see you, you're able to wear it all waking hours. And it's hard. I've had some people who've been kind of depressed the first few weeks because there's a lot of hype about this. There's a lot of hype, and people are like, so Megan, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've already gotten some.
I know. People don't understand.
They think you
If I
flip that
broke
switch
my
she's
arm and
immediately
had it in a
here.
cast for 4 years, and I had pins and 6 surgeries, and I've been, yeah, right after surgery, you think you're going to walk up to me and say, let's go throw the football? You're going to be in physical therapy for a long time if you had a bunch of pins hold. You know, if you shattered your arm, it's the same thing. It's going to take a little longer. So people just don't understand that. Now, I'm going to start giving you just a little tiny bit more in the bass, not in the treble, in the bass, because the bass is your friend. The bass is what you know. The bass is what's familiar to you. So I just gave you a teeny bit more in the bass. The bass is usually what people like. So
I don't normally like adding bass to the music and stuff, so.
You don't like adding bass? Okay, then I won't go crazy.
Yeah.
But usually that's the part of the cochlea that's the least damaged.
Okay.
For meningitis. It starts to attack the high frequencies and it works its way in. So usually the high frequencies are the worst. And in your case, everything was a no response. It didn't matter which frequency I tested. It was all no response across the board. So this will be your program 1. And I'm going to turn this off and save it. And you'll be like, and we're going to rerun the impedances so I can show this to you. It just takes a second. Okay. Some of my screen. Right. Ready? You won't hear anything. Okay, well, here's a good visual of it. Look at those numbers. Okay, it's just measuring them right now. Okay, ready? Watch this. You see that?
Wow.
This is what it looked like. Remember I told you those numbers were all going to go down?
Yeah.
I was kind of a little worried about this electrode.
Yeah. No,
Because it's really
no.
high. It was
And it went
24.1.
way
It's
down.
almost electrode that needs to be turned off. Look at it now. It's at 6.1. That's what 20 minutes of stimulation does. That layer protein, gone. I mean, not completely, but
Yeah.
that's the
amazing.
difference. So that has to do with what's inside your head. That has to do with what's sitting on top of these leads right here, right now, inside the cochlea. So you might think, well, nothing's changed for me. It still sounds bad. But there are changes that are happening inside your cochlea right now. So that's fantastic. Okay, let's go back to where we were. That's fine. So those are those new impedances. We don't see that 20. Now when I turn it on, this is right where you were before. I haven't changed anything. This is your same program. But your initial, you didn't even jump. You're no fun. Most people are like, they kind of jump. I think you're going to adapt really well. I think you will get to program 3 because you're pretty cool as a cucumber. But most people, when you turn it off and you turn it back on, it's just, it assaults them.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to experience first thing tomorrow morning. You're going to have it off all night. You're going to put it on. Make sure when you put it on, you're in program 1. Turn your volume down. But when you first put it on, you're going to be like,
Yeah.
it's like jumping in. There was a college student I was working with, and she described it as jumping into an ice.
Yeah.
She does this whole essay for her English class, and you don't know that she's talking about an implant. But she says, first thing in the morning, and she describes what seems like she's getting into a really ice-cold pool. Really, it's almost the pain of putting on an implant. How shocking it is, how assaulting it is, and then it starts to be more comfortable, and a few minutes later, she describes the first 5 minutes of putting an implant on. It's really, really an interesting thing to read. But, so when I turned it on, it would have been normal for you to jump, or for you to flinch, or for you to feel like, well, I haven't turned it off. It's just that you've been without it for a second while I reran that test, and tomorrow morning's going to be a little bit harder. But again, that's normal. There's nothing wrong. That's totally normal. Okay, so this is going to be program 1, and I'm going to create 2 considerably louder programs that you will get to. Now let's say that between now and April the 23rd, you email me in a week and you say, I'm already using program 3. I'd be shocked. I'd be thrilled. I might tell you, why don't you go ahead and why don't you send me one of your processors and I can load some louder programs in it. We could do that. Okay. Couple things I want to do. I want you to just turn your hearing aid off in a minute. I'm going to cover my face and I'm just going to say, Megan, Megan. And if you feel it, hear it, sense it, raise your hand so I know you're aware of it. Okay, go ahead and turn your hearing aid off. Megan. 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 Okay, good. Okay, turn your hearing aid on. So detection, check, done. That's good. Now it might be feeling, it might be sensation, but I know you can detect your name at not a very loud level. Now I'm going to give you 3 different syllable words. And this young lady that I told you about that was 17 when she got her implant, she couldn't do any of this. She couldn't even tell her name because there was an overriding noise that was present, and she felt like she couldn't, like there's a noise in this room even. There's a fan in this room. She couldn't really tell when I was saying her name and when I wasn't. So that's good for you.
Yeah, I just heard a bunch of beeps.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. Clear Voice is coming soon. I'm getting trained on Wednesday.
Okay.
So I told the gentleman I saw from Gillette that I expect I'd be able to give you Clear Voice, but I'm not positive when I see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm not even expected to use it anytime soon.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully, I might give it to you in just a couple of weeks. Okay. So now I'm going to say shoe, airplane, or ice cream cone, and you tell me which one I said.
Okay.
Okay?
Take the hearing aid
Yes,
off.
please. So shoe, airplane, ice cream cone, airplane, airplane,
I can't tell what it is.
airplane, ice cream cone,
Shoe.
ice cream cone. That's okay. That's okay. Airplane, airplane, shoe, shoe.
Shoe.
Good. Ice cream cone,
Ice cream cone.
shoe,
Shoe.
airplane.
Airplane.
Turn your hearing aid on. See how quickly she's already adapting? Like in the beginning, you couldn't tell any of them apart, but the last 5 you got right. You're really, really adapting quickly. So that's fantastic. Again, the 17-year-old couldn't find her name. She couldn't tell when somebody was talking because she had a perception that there was always talking. Do you know that there's constant noise? So that's exciting. That's why you need to occasionally take this off, because if you don't do that, you won't strengthen this side. Your brain will gravitate toward the path of least resistance, and that's the hearing aid. It's what you already know. It's what's familiar. You need to isolate your left ear. It's critical. So some things you can do, you can watch a TV program that you've seen a lot with closed captioning, and you might be relying on lip reading. Try not to look at the closed captioning, but it's okay to. But try to look at lip reading and just see if you can start putting anything together with lip reading. Is there and dinner time? Okay, Mom, I know I'm not going to understand you. Be patient with me. My hearing aid's out. I'm over at your place having dinner. My hearing aid's out. Tell her so she's not frustrated because you're saying what. But it's a lip reading exercise. It's an opportunity for the brain to put the lip movements together with what you're probably saying. Those kinds of therapeutic exercises are really important. Another thing you can do is something called speech tracking. So you sit side by side with someone, and they read to you. You don't look at them, but you're pointing on the paper to what they're reading. So sometimes I'll bring a People magazine in, and if I were sitting right next to you, you would be reading. Now I'd read slow, but hopefully you're seeing the visual word and you're hearing it. And instead of just, each beep sounds different.
Yeah.
Shh sounds different than ah. They're different beeps. Every time you see a word, it's got a different fingerprint. So if you do speech tracking, you're following along and you're getting the visual word along with what you're hearing, and your brain is putting it together. That's another exercise you can do. I wouldn't do much of that the next 2 days.
Yeah.
I would be good to Megan, because this is so stressful. I would take your hearing aid out for a couple hours tomorrow. They don't have to be all at once. And it doesn't have to be anything strenuous. It might be as simple as going around the house, making noise, popping popcorn in the microwave, watching the beep when it beeps, opening a door, closing a door, unloading silverware, turning on the water, turning off the water. I know this sounds weird, going to the bathroom. Because some people will say, oh my gosh, I have never heard myself urinate. I didn't know it made a noise. Or maybe they haven't heard it in years. Like people have said, I don't remember hearing that. I know that's kind of weird, but I get that a lot. People tell me that a lot. So you might just say, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes 4 times a day tomorrow going around making noise. And your brain's putting the movement of what it is you're doing together with what you're hearing. And in just a short period of time, I could see you acclimating on your left ear. You couldn't tell the difference between shoe, airplane, and ice cream. You went from not knowing at all which word it was to getting 5 in a row correct. That's all you. That's your brain getting used to it. Okay. Sweet. Really sweet. So then another thing you could do, I'm giving you other exercises. So the next thing I would do, you're not ready, I don't want to do it. But the next thing your mom could do is she could say, okay, I'm going to give you 3 words. Or I'm just going to give you 2 words. You might be able to do this in a few days. I'm going to give you just toothbrush and airplane. They're both 2-syllable words, but they have dramatically different fingerprints. Toothbrush has a lot of energy in through here. Mm-hmm. Airplane has a lot of energy in through here. They're totally different what's happening to the implant. When we're not making any noise, there's always random noise going on. But if I were to sustain shh or sustain ah, it looks different on my screen. What's happening inside looks totally different. So just see if you can tell which one it is. Sometimes that's hard, so instead what I'll do is I'll say, I'm either going to say airplane, airplane, or airplane toothbrush. Tell me if I gave you the same word or 2 different words. So I would go toothbrush, toothbrush, and you'd say same. And I'd say toothbrush, airplane, you'd say different. Okay. So that's another really good exercise because what you're doing is you're forcing the brain to start paying attention to some really small cues that separate it. Then I don't know, we'll see where you are in 2 weeks, but sometimes people can do something like colors. They can say, okay, I'm going to give you one of these 5 colors. Yellow, blue, orange, purple. Some of them sound similar because they're 2 syllables, but you might be able to figure out which one it is. All without your hearing aid in, obviously. So those are just some ideas of exercises you can be working on. Because you have to rehab this ear.
Yeah.
If you had knee surgery, we wouldn't say, off the table you go, get up and walk. We would be putting you through intensive therapy, and the same thing happens with an implant. And it's really, I couldn't say enough how critical that therapy is. Advanced Bionics' listening room is a great resource. Great resource to use. And they figure out where you're at, and they work with you where you're at, and then when you make improvement, they push you to something harder. So it's a great resource for you. So there's a whole bunch of different ideas. Before I forget, this is your copy. But we send this off to Advanced Bionics for you. Okay. So you don't have to worry about any of that. We'll take care of it for you. questions about anything we've covered so far? Need to go yet? When you get home, make sure you charge everything right away. This should last your trip home, but it might not. It just depends on the weather.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on if you stop somewhere. Depends on it's not fully charged. So if you are going back to the hotel, right?
I don't think we are.
Okay. Well, then that's no problem. You should be okay. If it stops working, open up your box and pull out one of the other ones that hasn't been fully charged. It still has a charge on it.
Okay.
So it should get you through. Okay. So I'm going to turn this off and save it.